Good morning. It's a new dawn. It's the 25th year of the 21st century, the new millennium. We talk about Gen Z, Gen Y, millennials. So it's all about the gaps that have been created between people who think differently, who are born with difference. The way we perceive something, the way we accept, reject something has drastically evolved over the years. So every generation, each and every generation, stamp their authority to the way they live. That's how we evolve. And this evolution is something that we cannot bypass. We are supposed to go through it and go by it. That is where we directly get into the topic. The evolution that is supposed to be made in Kerala's police service. The empowerment, the digital empowerment that's supposed to happen in Kerala police. In the evolving scenario of security, public perception, and the way the social life has evolved, the way the economic activities has evolved. And when both that evolve, the way we think, the way we work, the way we act to change. And the security issues too evolve along with that. It cannot stay away from it. Crime happens in public, and the public life has now a virtual place. It's a virtual place. They meet, they engage, they disperse for some other reasons and at some other place. So, crime too has evolved. Has our police to say yes, we must get into this empowerment. Digitally, technically empowered police. We talk about additional courses, additional qualifications in any field. In the same way, there need to be additional trainings and additional empowerment that police has to immerse in, because it's a kind of sea where they have to go there, swim, realize, because it's too vast and it's too unpredictable, it's too murky. Sometimes the road is too murky, but it is evolving, and we must know that to keep pace with the changing time, the changing realities, we must be empowered. The political decisions and how they play spoil sport, we know that we are at the receiving end of the same in the very same in the education system, and how that has created a drastic expedition of a generation from a drastic escape of a generation from the state. So it's a kind of credibility loss. It's a loss of trust, a trust deficit, and in many ways that is creeping into our police system. So that is where we start the issue. Some of the important issues, the way we use public place, digital literacy, Islamic extremism, immigration, and the need to depoliticize. We have discussed some very important issues related to the same a year back, maybe a couple of years back, because of including the need to diversify police and decongest police, the kind of money, resource, and the police personnel that is being employed in serving these elected representatives. So we talked about decongesting and using the same for the welfare and security of the citizenry. In the same, very same angle, we are now getting deep into some other important issues that the authorities, the experts, has to analyze and come to conclusion, come to terms with the reality that this cannot go on like this. Some of the recent incidents in the state is a reminder of what is happening here, and that is very important. As we told before, the public place. This include a stadium. This include all these things, and the issues related to wildlife and the laws that has to be regulated, where there must be there must be a complete restructuring of wildlife laws, where police must be empowered and they must transfer trust to the public. And the cattle roaming around the public place, and all these things are quite important in the way the issues that police has to address, or something that police are unwilling to address. The kind of trust deficit has been perpetrated in our movies, where we see the heroes, let's transfer the case to CBI, let's transfer this case to crime branch. It's a kind of trust deficit that constantly being kind of served into our vision, something that we served into our psyche, that the police system cannot handle such cases. But still, there was not a kind of trust deficit. There was not any kind of lack of trust in police force. Actually, people, the public, the Keralites know that the police force has their integrity. The police personnel are competitive, honest, but the kind of politicization that makes them, that kind of strangulate them, make them powerless, and strip them of their qualities. There are too many examples, even in the recent past. The kind of political, the police, how the police are unable to track down some of these notorious student wing activists of Students Federation of India, and the kind of luxury life that the henchmen of the ruling party has enjoyed. All this paints a very shoddy picture about the police force of the state. It's not the way to go. It's not the way to. It's what happens is that the kind of trust deficit, something that we usually come to associate with the Kerala's education system. It's a kind of erosion of trust where we feel that this won't happen. Their loyalty is not to the public, and even if they are loyal, they kind of they are immobile. They've been. It's a kind of demotivated staff that we have for our security, whose loyalty is completely to the ruling elite. So this kind of picture creates a trust deficit where people don't feel secure or feel that they have a system that protects them. So it's up to the police force to construct construct that trust. It is something that is it has been demolished. The trust has been almost fully been demolished. So it's time to construct, or rather reconstruct, that trust that has been long lost. That is where we see this people settling their scores in public. What that creates is that what kind of picture that it creates is that you don't actually care, you don't actually feel that there is a system called policing that is there. You are trying to settle scores. It's not it's not the goons who settle their scores. It's not the mafia that settle their scores. It's the normal citizen who feels that they can settle their scores. Nothing will happen. So if that kind of image is created, that will have a long-term impact, like what we see in our education system, where people flee the state for better education, regardless of the quality of education, regardless of the quality of education that they will get in the higher education institutions of Kerala. But when that kind of trust deficit is being created, constantly accumulated in the public realm, the psyche of the public, there is no other way but to leave. And they are leaving. This is the same thing that will happen with the police in a near future. That is where the issue of Islamic extremism and interstate migration come to the fore. These migrants, mostly from very poor social background, is creating a big anarchy in the social system, especially last decade. And now, in the past 2 or 3 years, especially in with the evolving scenario in very hostile scenario that is evolving in Bangladesh and in the Chinese in the border, we see the migrant laborers is actually a creation of Islamic extremism. The kind of issues that is constantly coming up, including murder, drug trafficking. There is clear indication that Islamic extremism is there. It's not an issue of a religion being targeted. It's not an issue of secularism being compromised. It's not an issue that all these immigrant nerds fundamentalist tendencies. But security issue is damn evident, and you cannot you cannot ignore it just to escape from being tagged, from the ignominy of being tagged right-wing or Islamophobic. You need to address realities, and that is where you need to accept realities, and you must act. Tough decisions has to be made, and you cannot run away from responsibilities. That is where politicization coming. Many of the decisions are being kind of foiled by the intervention of the political class. So, a legal empowerment is very much necessary. The issues related to Mech 7, the possibility of Popular Front hijacking the same, and the issues in the college as of Samasta, where an extremist book, a banned book, is being taught along with the as part of the curriculum. All these issues coming up. So, just because this has an emotional realm, just because the media hide this, you cannot run away from it. The reason issues and now the politicization, the Karipur airport, the ADGP issues, all these, of course, there would be some dark spots, but still you must understand that the issue is relevant. Just to clear the air, you must go deep into it. You must realize that there is issue, and the issue is real. There may be some exaggerated terms, there may be some superfluous comments, but when you leave aside all these things, you understand that there is something real, and for that you need to have an empowered police force, legally empowered police force, whose ramification is set by welfare, security, and welfare and security of the citizenry. So just because this media created and feeded by the anti-socials, most of them, with vested political religious interests, just because they target you, you cannot run away from your responsibility. So, just because some of these narratives created by the vested interests roaming around, you cannot stay away from responsibility. This suicide narratives hurled at posterity, insubordinate to the ire of generation fleeing the state for good. So you must understand that this is what that is happening in the educational field. They are insubordinate to the reality. When you are insubordinate to reality, you will fall subordinate to the antisocials. Refuse to budge to the evolving scenario is absolutely unethical. This unethical practice is what that has become the norm. This will for sure spawn a new dimension to welfare and federalism, because it is federalism that has been targeted. And when a legal system, when a police system is empowered by a state, by a state in a country, this will trigger a new energy in federalism, because an empowered police is what that creates social security, because social security is quite important, very important. And that is where we come to the digital space. It is a space now used for crime, for terror. With in a state like Kerala, with high digital literacy, digital penetration, you see radicalization, religious radicalization, gambling, and theft, all these in the digital space. So, a digitally empowered, depoliticized police can happen only when it is legally empowered. So, that will spawn a new dimension to welfare, no doubt about that. We have talked about extractive democracies. We have heard, we even now hear news where we issues news that media persons are attacked, killed. So, a compassionate democracy can happen only in a very sound, safe security system. And that is where an empowered police is a must. Because of this empowered, equipped, vibrant police system, it is this that has played, it is actually this that has stimulated Kerala's tourism development. Because tourism, women empowered a society with empowered women, these all go hand in hand. And that is why Kerala is a chosen destination. Not just because of the tree that it provides to eyes for the visitors. That is where the migrant laborers, domestic migrant laborers, and political subordination create issues. This trust deficit has to be adjusted, has to be understood, and has to be, it must be deleted from the diary of the police personnel. They must regain the trust, because the pattern of Islamic extremism is changing. That is something that we have to understand. Ramming vehicle, ramming vehicle into a crowd and using a stabbing as a method. Very novel and very useful in a sense that it inflicts more pain and it carries less security risk, the weapons they use. So, when the awareness regarding Islamic extremism and the right wing is gaining strength, the Islamic extremists are using more sophisticated or more or rather less sophisticated ways to enter. They might completely abhor using explosives. And this change in pattern, modus operandi, is evident even in India. The kind of hawk's calls you're getting, uh, the objects found in the railway tracks, all this indicates that the methods do change. And that is where the kind of availability of these drugs, MDMAs, these narcotics, the flourishing narcotic trade in Kerala, especially last decade. That is where it becomes crucial, and that is why these immigrants create a big threat, especially because they come from an absolutely deprived social culture. They don't know how to behave in public. Even if you try to empower them, they find it hard to gel well with this system. And when in that system, Islamic extremism, when that system is invaded by Islamic extremism, and then you see the inaction from police, you feel that what is happening in the education system is the same that is being replicated in the police system. So that trust deficit is it's getting bigger. You see the ploy used by these Islamic extremists, even if it is a case of this new Syrian leader, the Al Qaeda terrorist, and the kind of approach that in the Kerala's Media One channel use. They approach public as secularists, as soft-spoken men. Even in Europe, you see them taking citizenship, being there for decades, if for years, staying there for years, creating a trust or keeping a low profile, and then exploiting themselves for their ideology. So this has to be kept track. You cannot ignore it, or you cannot stay away from it. You cannot stay away from reality. This is the same thing that is applicable to PV Anwar. The kind of the allegations that he raised and his past as a notorious diamond merchant. All this has to be analyzed and has to be monitored. That is where public plays, the way we use, the lack of civic sense, all this come to fore. Because the nightlife is here to stay and it is sprouting. Social life has changed, nature of work, time of work, all this has changed. And gender equality, women empowerment, all this go hand in hand with a nightlife. So the protection has to be real and it has to be provided. And if that has evolved, the possibility of terrorism has also evolved. The lone wolf attacker in Germany is said to be he himself he addresses himself as a right-wing person. So this kind of strategy has been employed, and this is something where police has completely been kept in the dark. This is something that has to change because it is a lack of trust that is coming out in the open. We are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about virtual life, and all these are realities. And this reality, there's no running away from it. You must be empowered to meet the challenge. The recent incident where an MLA has been fatally injured during a public meeting or public function. This brings to forward the issue of lack of renovated laws guarding the use of public place. The rent system, the usage, all these are it's not, there is absolute lack of transparency. There must be an empowered police system that has to analyze the permission, the rules regarding the permission to conduct a certain program in an open place. The organizers, the sponsors, all this has to be in the public domain, and all this has to be an issue that police has to deal. It is very sad that a very tragic incident was needed for us to be aware of this complete anarchy prevailing in the public realm regarding the use of public space, public place. So, an empowered police system, this all this burden fall on police because it is the lack of security that has resulted in it. Any notorious person, you can invite a celebrity and can run a show where there is more people than it can actually accommodate. More than double the people that it can actually accommodate. And so you see an elected representative who supposed to have some privilege in democracy too is not immune to this. She or he too doesn't know what is actually happening around there. The laws regarding the fencing, the laws regarding the electrification, all these are not on the purview of police force. So if it is under the purview of police force, then the blame is completely, it is the police force that has to bear the blame. So the issue is of paramount significance. It's about the renovation. It's about the digital empowerment. Police has to address the call of time. You cannot go on like this. There's a burgeoning trust deficit. This must be addressed. The trust has to be regained. Faith has to be retained. And security has to be reinstated. Thank you.